Good evening and welcome to Face for the Newsfirst team. I'm Niresh Eliathambi. Well, we have seen so many high-profile civil servants and, of course, politicians incarcerated over the last few weeks and months, and it's quite amazing. We must be the only country in the world where the Inspector General of Police is in jail. The Controller General of Immigration is in jail, and the Commissioner General of Prisons is in jail. So quite a record we're setting, which has its good side and its bad side. And to discuss this, we have with us Mr. Maithri Gunaratne, President's Counsel, who is no stranger to both politics and governance and the law, of course. Welcome. Good evening.
Thank you, Niresh.
Maithri.
Thank you.
On the one hand, we are generally happy that all these people are being brought to book. But on the other hand, there are consequences.
Definitely.
And then you also wonder, well, first of all, with so many top officials being incarcerated, do we need to look further to look at our society itself and our senior leadership, the presidents of the time, the prime ministers, the cabinets, which what were they doing at the time? We are right now being very anecdotal. Somebody is found fault with and he's arrested. But was there a greater scenario which we as a society need to discuss and deal with?
Niresh, if I am to deal with the prison commissioner at first, now the issue is as to the release of prisoners for poson. That's a pardon which is given, and it is called a presidential pardon or a pardon for poson. And for every important, we'll say, birthdays of maybe some religious leaders, that there is a certain amount of people who are released from prison.
Independence Day.
Independence Day. So now these are the general criteria for this release of these prisoners is, Niresh, there are people, thousands of people, prisoners, who can't pay the fine, who can't, there are mainly who can't pay the fine for very, very trivial offences. Because sometimes when you go to court, sometimes the courts are very inconsiderate. They impose very large fines and these people can't pay it. And then what happens is, when there is a possibility of giving them a pardon, it is all meticulously gathered in the prisons department. So because I have worked very closely with the prisons department, even if you have to go and visit a inmate in the prisons department as a lawyer, you need to give your identity card, then that is filled into a book, that is taken to the guy who is there, the prisons authority there, he goes into that, he approves it. So out of most of these departments, the prison department, their book work is excellent, right? So therefore, now this release of these prisoners was not a thing, or is not a thing which happens tomorrow. Is Poya here, 50 people, we need to release these guys. It doesn't happen that way.
There is a structured process.
There is a structured process. There is a structured process. So now they know by poson that so many prisoners can be released. So they go into that structured process and they take those people's names and they put it into a file, and then that is sent. So in that list, there has been another name which has gone in. A person who has been convicted recently, not even served 1 or 2 weeks in the prison, his name has gone in. Now Niresh, now that's an issue. That's an issue. So what happens is, okay, when that happened, this was brought up to the media, and then this became a whole, it like exploded like a time bomb.
Absolutely. Social media was going wild with all kinds of theories.
All kinds of things. So then now this present government is very sensitive to social media or any kind of media. For that matter, they are very sensitive to any kind of criticism. So now, moment this went berserk or went viral, what they did was they lodged a complaint. They lodged a complaint that this has happened, and the CID, which is also under the president, what do? They arrest the first guy for thinking that he is the culprit, arrest the commissioner. Now, is that the law of the country? That's the question we have to ask.
Well, you do have to ask that question. However, let's give the CID the benefit of the doubt that they took the statements, they investigated for a couple of days, and then they made the arrest.
The issue is this, Niresh. There is a Supreme Court judgment delivered by Justice Yasanta Kodagoda. If I remember, it's 135/2020, where very explicitly he has said, or the Supreme Court, three judges have said, that you should not, just for at the spur of the moment, you should not arrest people and produce them without doing a full study of the case, making a full report, and then you see who is guilty in the case. So now, from what I can see, okay, Prisons Department, Prisons Commissioner is responsible, so just arrest him and produce him.
So what you're saying is that the system should be, according to the Supreme Court,
yes,
that you need to do your investigations
first.
Of course, there is the exception if the suspect is likely to flee the country or abscond.
Yeah, but there was no imminent danger like that, no, Niresh. There was absolutely no danger of that. Okay, there was an issue. Then what do? You prepare the list, or you investigate as to how this list was prepared. Then you will see where this name or names have been included. Then at that point, because Niresh, in fairness to all these people, now I have held very high positions in governance. Right? Sometimes the amount of documents we have to sign are, it is humanly not possible to read it and sign. So that's why these ministers, secretaries, and all these people have assistant secretaries, assistant secretaries, and various other guys, where it comes through a filtered process. And now we'll say you're the assistant secretary or the person who is in charge of release of remand prisoners or release of prisoners from prison. So when normally when that file is brought to me, I don't need to do another, if I'm the Commissioner of Prisons, I don't need to do another investigation to see whether they have arrived at got the correct list. So technically what I do is I look at the list, I asked everything has been done, yes, done, sign.
Yeah. And in this case there were 388 names. So there is no way.
You have to be fair by these people also.
Right.
So then out of these 300 and odd names, Niresh, okay, we'll say 350 were genuine cases. Only the 38 cases which have to be investigated. So what I'm saying is, without such investigation, if they are going to clap the prison commissioner into jail or into remand prison, start prosecuting him, what is the message the government is sending to all other departmental heads? What is the message? The message is, don't work, don't take decisions, because if you take a decision and if there is some issue in that decision, your neck is on the line.
But on the other hand, Maithri, now the latest news is that this has happened continuously, and over the last year or so, some 60 prisoners have been released like this.
Yeah, so then Niresh, there are prisons in all parts of the country. Okay, release of prisoners don't happen only in Colombo. Every prison
gives the prison warden or the commissioner gives a recommendation.
Gives a recommendation. So isn't it fair or isn't it just that they investigate all these places and see whether this has been done properly without hammering the head of the prisons department?
So this is what I'm saying, Maithri. We need to have a larger view of this. How many have...
No, it's not a case of larger view. It's a case of the CID and the police now pandering to the president to satisfy his... Now, basically, Niresh, now these guys came into power saying, we are the paragons of virtue. There is nothing that we can do wrong. But everything they do, so almost everything they have done, something has triggered off and some controversy has come up. So, moment the controversy comes up...
Well, I wouldn't say everything they've done, but there have been controversies.
So, once the controversy comes up, now they are very, very embarrassed because they have portrayed a picture that they cannot do wrong. So, that when that happens, Niresh, this is the how it follows, or the repercussion is, then they let all forces loose to deal with the subject, and I don't think that this is a fair manner in dealing with the subject without a proper investigation.
So that's what I'm saying, Maithri. Now we need to find out, is this the system now where if they've found 60 names so far, then if you go back say 10 years, it could be hundreds or thousands who have been released like this.
So let us look at this present context. Now, Niresh, what would have happened is, for this to trigger off, what would have happened is, now they say that one guy was convicted and not even 1 or 2 weeks he didn't serve.
Very quickly he was back at home. Then his neighbors must have been wondering what happened.
So that's how this triggers off, no, Niresh. So then one thing leads to the other, and then it becomes a major issue, as in this case. So in the same way, not that I'm trying to defend the previous regimes. If there was something glaringly irregular, like what has happened in this instance, obviously it would have come up in some form. And the other thing is, Niresh, when you are doing this kind of thing in a government department, the file is not generated from one person, and it doesn't end with that person. There are so many layers of checking and controlling.
I mean, you can't sneeze in a government department without it getting written and signed in 10 ledgers.
10 ledgers. So therefore, it is not an easy thing. But here, someone has worked out the system.
So it's clearly a more organized racket.
Definitely. So does the prison commissioner have to be responsible for that? So what I'm saying is, okay, maybe the responsibility ultimately, as the chief, he has to take responsibility. But shouldn't the investigators go through the whole investigation, the process, and then bring the file to the magistrate and tell the learned magistrate that, well, this is what has happened. Let the learned magistrate decide what he is going to do. Now they leave no option. They make a very, very strong case that this has happened. They produce a suspect to court, and the magistrate has no discussion. They have completely removed the discussion. They get the magistrate to remand this guy. So these are having a deterrent effect for the worst, because I must tell you, I think I told this in this program before, Niresh. When I was appointed as governor to the central province, before I assumed duties, I invited all my top officials for a dinner to my residence, and I had a chat with them and said that, I have come here, I want to work, I'm interested in only working, I'm not here to make money, I come to work. And then after that, this discussion went that way. Then we finished the meeting and we invited them for some refreshments and water and food. And then after that they were talking, and then they came and said, "Sir, we are very glad that you invited us and you had a very frank discussion. But what is happening is most of the ministers, the political leadership, they always, if there is a mistake, they find the official, they put it on the official, and what happens is they get the official to take the burden of that. They don't take that burden. So as a result of that, our policy is no work, no problem, more work, more problem." This was the theory in the, it is still, I think, the theory in the government.
Which is another reason why you have to get 10 signatures to
That's
do
right.
the smallest thing, even from a Pradesh Sabha.
So because of this, Dinesh, so much of checks and balances have gone into this system, and it has made it not slow, it is in slow motion. So now when you go and take the head of the prisons department and lock him up, just imagine what is going to happen to the rest of the fellows. Will they sign a document? Will they want to be, by signing a document, you are sometimes thinking whether I will end up in prison. So can you do an independent job if that sword is hanging above your head? So this is the short-sightedness of their actions. What is happening is they are completely bringing the.
But Maithri, how do you strike the balance then? Because
no, the striking the balance is there is proper investigations. You can't be in a hurry. Just to pander to social media and the media and to show the world, no, I am above board. We are above board. We are clean boys, right? So we have now done the needful. That's not the way forward. The legal process takes time, but it's like a steamroller. It's slow, but ultimately it gets to you. It takes time, but ultimately it gets to you. So you can't in any way quicken the process, Nilesh, which has happened here. Then the other instance you mentioned, the Immigration Commissioner. In that case, Nilesh, now government officials are supposed to, when they are dealing with courts or with anyone, supposed to give authentic, correct information.
As with any witness,
any citizen. So this guy seems to have done something completely regular, and it has come to the light of 3 Supreme Court judges that this guy has blatantly violated the law, blatantly misled the court, and what do you expect the court to do? Now, in this instance, these are 3 Supreme Court judges. They have spent 30 years in the legal profession as judges, as maybe state counsel, in senior Attorney General Department officials, senior people in the legal profession. So there is a certain amount of responsibility and certain amount of what do you call, on their judgment. We accept it without questioning when it is from the Supreme Court, and if the Supreme Court says that this has happened, there is no one going to come, no, these guys are crazy, we can't accept it. That has not come to that level. So Immigration Commissioner, I am saying that's good, because then you send the shockwaves down any person, that you can't come to court and give false affidavits, false statements, and try to mislead the court. Right. So these are 2 different situations. Because I know, Nilesh, I mean, sometimes, with these writ applications and all that, these government officials file various kinds of affidavits which are not true. So in this instance, that was completely or clearly visible to the Supreme Court with what this Immigration Commissioner did, and the Supreme Court took cognizance of that and gave him the deterrent effect. That is a different issue. This is a different issue, because in that case there was no investigation required. While looking at the 2 papers or the 2 statements, you can see that this guy is lying. So you don't need investigation. It's prima facie. It's clearly established that this guy has lied and he has been taken in. So those are two different situations. So what I'm saying is, when the government is acting, government doesn't have the freedom of the wild ass. They have to, how much difficult it is, it's the process. Now, for instance, there were two senior ministers, and another minister who was found guilty, and they were imprisoned for 20-25 years. Now, Dinesh, how long did that investigation take? How long did the case take? Now, this government is trying to run away with someone else's clothes, saying that okay, this is what we have done. Otherwise, if
that particular case was it took several years.
Several years. It was, in fairness, it was filed during Mr. Maithri Sirasana's time, but it took a long time. That's how it happens. I mean, none of us agree with the delay. None of us agree with the delay, but well, that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. So, now that is a full process. I have my reservations with regard to the sentence. Now it's apparently some carom board fraud. They have got 20 years and 25 years. Now, even for murder, the sentence is 20 years, and another person 25 years. So these are matters which the Court of Appeal will deal with. But notwithstanding that, that's how the process has taken place. So that's a legal process, and no one can complain. Moment the High Court pronounces that you are guilty, in you go. No questions asked. And then, of course, you have the right to appeal, and in appeal you may be able to get out. If there is a bail pending appeal, all those avenues can be exhausted, it can be canvassed. So that is the freedom the citizen has got. But what I am saying is, Niresh, the process has to be followed. You can't bypass the process. You can't pander to your superiors or to your commanding officer and alter the process. That is what is wrong.
But now, speaking of altering the process, I come back to my first question, Maithri, where you look at society today, it is nothing like what it was when we were young. There were certain ethics and norms which were practiced. It was not perfect at all.
Correct.
But we've gone backwards in a big way, and this has happened because of successive governments. Of course, we had the war and we had all kinds of other issues, yes, but no government tried to develop society. Its development is not about roads and bridges and all those things. We allowed the ethical side of society to degenerate, and this is something, in the end, society has to have a reckoning, to look at itself and say, well, this period, these things were wrong. And we see this happening in many other countries, which are
Niresh,
actually looking
Niresh,
at this.
I agree with what you say. I 100% agree with what you say. But Niresh, our system is such that if you are doing an honest job of work in this system, you have no chance of survival. You have no chance of survival. Now, I am talking of my personal experience. I have been the recipient of that injustice on 2 occasions. When I was the head of the coal company, I was able to bring coal at a very low price, and of course, I must say that the minister was Mr. Champikaranawaka. He never interfered, and he gave me the mandate to do that, which was done. But moment he was changed, and the new minister came, Secretary Batagoda and the new minister, everyone found me being an absolute obstacle. And what did they do? They dissolved the board. These are government-owned companies. They dissolved the board. So then there was no way I could, once the board is dissolved, I was not going to fight, and I mean, it's not my personal property to go and fight. And then I ceased operations there. Okay, so that was because they found that with me they couldn't get their way. Then thereafter, 1 month later, I was summoned to the President's office and I was given a file by the President, His Excellency Mr. Maithri Gunaratne, and he gave me the file and he said, "Make aragena make a කොහොම hari make a profitable ආයතනයක් බවට පත් කරන්න." I didn't know what it was. So I took the file, I thanked him, I took the file and I came into the vehicle and I checked, and I had been appointed as competent authority of the Lanka mineral sands. So within 6 months, within 3 months, I made it a profitable organization. But there again, I was becoming an irritant to the minister and the secretary of the ministry. This is the first time I think in history the chairman had to file a case against the secretary of the ministry to allow me to go ahead with the tender. Because never in the recent history of that company did they get $210 for ilmenite. They were selling it at $30–40. I got $210 for 10,000 tons of ilmenite, and what do? They cancel the tender.
In fairness to all these gentlemen that you mentioned, they are not here to obviously answer this.
No, but I have Niresh, I have lodged complaints by naming the Secretary to the Minister of Power and Energy then to the Bribery Commission. No action has been taken. No action. I named. I was not going to hide my punches or hold my punches. I saw this irregularity. I went and lodged the complaint. And in fairness to Mr. Sirasa, who was the Director General of the bribery, he had seen this in the papers, this whole incident, or this seen as article and one of my statements. He had called upon the bribery to make an investigation. I went and gave all the statements. I went and gave all the documentation, but nothing came out of it. But they, even now, if this bribery commissioner wants, Mr. Ranga Disanayake, very competent guy, if he wants, he can unearth that file and bring all those fellows to book, because all the documentation, full investigation has been done.
But again, we're coming right back to that same point, Maithri, that now you take the Bribery Commission. I mean, it has been said in Parliament, it's been said everywhere that successive governments weakened the Bribery Commission, didn't give the personnel, didn't give vehicles, didn't give the resources, and the Bribery Commission simply couldn't function.
Correct.
Of course, now we hope the situation has changed, and as you said, the present commissioner
a competent guy. He was a very good judge and a competent guy. I mean, what is good must be said.
And there's a lot of activity
but
going
the only
on
thing
there.
is this. Only thing is this, Niresh. I hope he doesn't lose his head, because Ian Vikramanayake also lost his head. If you remember, during Mrs. Sirima Bandaranaike's time, there was a bribery commissioner by the name of Mr. Ian Vikramanayake. Now he got so much of powers that he thought he could do anything. So power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So when people are appointed to these positions, they must realize that within 3 years or 5 years that they are going out of these positions, and they have to use those positions and for the benefit of the society, and to eradicate corruption rather than becoming a pawn in the hands of the executive. So these are very, very delicate balances which they have to maintain.
Now, on the question of how far should these investigations and this soul searching by society, how far should it go? Now, today we see another news flash. Former President Ranil Wickremesinghe came to the CID, gave a statement and left. Former President Sirasa has done that several times as well. So you see that happening. But around the world, you also see presidents in other countries, former presidents, being actually jailed.
Yeah.
And just yesterday, there was the news that the former president of Argentina has been convicted, and the Supreme Court has tossed out her appeal. That is, of course, former President Cristina Kirchner, whose father was a president before her. So powerful political family, but convicted of corruption, hundreds of millions of dollars to a construction firm to build roads, and the roads weren't built, or they were half built. So again, 6-year sentence and stripped of civic rights, so she can never hold public office again. And then in Brazil, former President Bolsonaro is currently on trial for treason because the allegation is that he tried to overthrow the next government. Now, are we likely to see that kind of scenario here, or are we as a society going to say no, let's stop short?
I don't think we are still that advanced, Nilesh. I don't think, and the way actually.
But then now, isn't that wrong? Because we are going after the commissioners and everyone from the peon upwards, and then we stop short. We have some cabinet ministers jailed, but then we stop short of the top.
Yeah, so there are various IOUs, various people are having with other governments. So whether due to these IOUs, some people are not being investigated. These are actually relevant issues, and I know it for a fact, Nilesh. Now, if the police chief is called and said, put this file into cold storage, investigation that is done. So that happens today. There is no, I wouldn't say this is an independent police force. I wouldn't say the CID is 100% is independent. And the other thing is, Nilesh, I must bring it to the notice of this program. Now, take for instance our criminal justice system. When we file 100 cases, we get, if we are lucky, only 5 convictions. 5. 90.
That is of the criminal cases filed. So we all know that perhaps 1 in 1,000.
Yeah, that's right.
So we'll actually have a case file. I mean, most people don't even bother to even go to the local police station and make a complaint.
So now see, out of 100 cases, if our conviction rate is only 5, that is 5%, and in Singapore, in Japan, their conviction rate is 95%. So there is something wrong with our system.
Absolutely.
There is something absolutely wrong with our system. What is wrong with our system is our investigation process is absolutely useless. Because I know for a fact, like in the case of this prison commissioner, when a complaint is lodged without investigating the totality of the offence, what they do is, moment Nilesh Thambi's name is there, take him and put him in. X, Z, Y, their names are all, take them and remand them. So then what happens? Then what happens is, people who can give evidence have been made accused. Okay? So if witnesses have been made accused, who are going to be the witnesses to prove the case? So ultimately what happens is, there is no evidence to prove a case. So when there is no evidence to prove a case, the guy goes out scot-free, and then our conviction rate 95% acquitted, 5% convicted. That's the long and short of it. So
it pays to be a criminal.
Oh yes, yes.
Of course,
the system is geared for the criminal.
Of course, going through the whole judicial process, having to appear in court.
That's a torture.
Yeah, that's torture.
That's torture. Other than that, is the only punishment you go through. Although you get 95% go through, get acquitted, that 95% go through that torturous process of trials and appeals and all that, but they have to go through that.
So the 95%, you've got some of them who are innocent and some of them who are guilty.
That's right. But they all lack of evidence, they are taken out. They are taken out. So now see, the Supreme Court has given that order. Justice Kodagoda, the judgment, and in that order, Nilesh, the Supreme Court has told the IGP, go through this order, send a circular to all police stations that this is the manner in which investigation has to be done. That also has been done, but all these circulars are only implemented for 2-3 weeks. Only implemented for 2-3 weeks, and then that goes to the waste paper basket, or that goes to oblivion.
So we are boiling this down to the fact that our investigators are not professional enough.
No way. No way.
That's the whole problem.
No way. Now, for instance, Nilesh, now you take computer crimes, credit card frauds. Now, these are areas which you need a lot of expertise. We don't have those expertise. Then we'll say, now in bribery and corruption. Now, corruption is, if you have gone and amassed a hell of a lot of wealth, okay, then someone has to, it has to be a guy with an accounts background, auditing background, will have to go through that process and tell the investigators where to investigate, what to investigate. Now, do we have those experts there? Can they afford it? Can the bribery department, now those are high profile people you have to get. You have to maybe outsource, you have to get the contract, sign contracts with professionals who can do that. Right. So, now whether they have the wherewithal to do it. So, without those that input which the state is responsible to give, if they want this to be eradicated, you cannot expect it.
But there is a difference, Maithri, between not having the capabilities and actually blocking or impeding or destroying an investigation.
That is also as bad as doing the offence. That is also as bad as doing the offence. Now, when Parliament, whatever said and done, Parliament has passed the act and given the powers now, then the authorities who, it is the responsibility of the President to see that they get all those authority, the money and the expertise. So, these are issues which have been affecting our lethargic process and our corruption and the downgrading of standard. It's because, Nilesh, when people see this, what they think is, there is no point, there is no future in this country, nothing, no systems work. We will put our papers to go to some other country. What is the, look at the brain drain. Still, the passport office has a huge queue. Who is going? All able, capable people are leaving this country. So, when all the capable people are leaving the country, who is left? The fellows who can't go there, who can't find, most of them who can't find employment there, are left. So, we may be dealing with the bottom of the barrel, basically. So, this is the vicious manner in which this cycle works, and it takes a toll on the whole country, where there is brain drain, where there is no proper people wanting to come into government service.
But how do you break out of this cycle? And I don't think there's a magic wand. Just changing the government.
You need a person, or the President of the country has to be passionately get involved in eradicating all this and turning this around. And everyone, and I also thought that President Anukumar Dissanayake would be, first we thought Gotabaya will be that. And then,
boy, were we wrong.
We were wrong, right? And then, I mean, at the very inception, I thought President Anukumar Dissanayake also will come somewhere, but he seems to be absolutely in the dark. I'm sad to say this. He seems to be absolutely in the dark. He doesn't know what has to be done. And now this whole government is depending on the police and the Bribery Commission.
But now you mentioned that President AKD, you have certain criticisms, obviously.
Yeah.
But doesn't he have to rely on the same police, same
he has to.
Customs, the same inland revenue?
Now you would remember.
This is something which actually I put to many NPP candidates before they came into office.
So what I'm saying is, now he very proudly, before he was elected, he said that he has a double cab full of files. Okay. So what did everyone expect? That these files will come out of the double cab. It will go its way to the CID and the CCD, the Bribery Commission, and these will be investigated, and these guys will be brought in. Now, tell me one file which has come like that. Tell me one file.
Maybe they have, and we
but
have.
Then if he has it, and if he has not been able to do it, then it's inefficiency, or he is trying to save someone's, he's having a deal.
But so far we see no such evidence.
No, now the point is this. If we now, Nilesh, I come to this show and I say, I have got these files. I'm going to, if you give me the power, I will see that I'll sort this out. I have to take responsibility for that. I can't just come and make irrational, baseless statements here. Whatever said done, and these are national TV channels, and we have some kind of credibility. We have to walk our talk. We have to walk our talk. Where is he walking the talk? There is no walking the talk, Nilesh. So what I'm saying is this: okay, these files, obviously he would have had a list of the files, and he could have come and told the public, yeah, these are the 500 files I have. Here, the first 10 files have been given to the CID. Make it transparent. These are the charges. People would have been flocking, and I mean, they would have been very happy. And within 6 months, they would have lost their popularity by 22 lakhs of votes if this had happened. Now he's in power for the last 8 months. 8 months. Where are the files? They are running on the steam of what Mr. Maithri Gunaratne did. The Ayapal cases. That's what they are doing. Because now this prison commissioner's matter, Nilesh, is at its very, very early stage. If in another 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time, you will find, sometimes you will find that there was no evidence. I have come across many cases where the CID has filed, and when they file to make it very, very attractive to the judge to remand, they cite various money laundering, terrorist financing, various acts to intimidate the judge, so that the judge will remand.
But in the end, the evidence may not be there.
There is nothing. So this is the sad story. This is the sad story, because all of them are driven by serving and pandering to their political masters.
But that's the culture which has to change.
That has to change. So these guys said, we are the greatest changers of this toxic culture. We are going to change this toxic culture. I agree, it is toxic. But these guys are also consuming the toxicity now. That's what's happening.
Interesting opinion indeed, Maithri, and we're almost out of time.
As always.
But I still live in hope.
Oh no, no way am I saying that don't live in hope. I mean, there is not that everything is lost. This country, Nilesh, can be put right in 6 months. I have the fullest confidence that it can be done, and this is a nice place with all these issues. With all these issues, still Sri Lanka is a nice place to live in. I mean,
and it can be turned around very quickly. It can be turned
to, you're talking of Switzerland, it can be made better than that. And it's all you need is.
I'm happy you said Switzerland and not Singapore, because most people say Singapore, and
what I'm talking about a country like Switzerland, because there is a 5-star democracy there and everything is working very well. But actually, we are a country very much more blessed than that, because they have a winter which goes on for about 6 to 8 months. We have no winters like that. We have got a beautiful season right throughout the year. We have got enough rain. We have got all the natural resources here. But unfortunately, we have got a lousy bunch of politicians and leaders who have been leading this country for the last 73 years.
And society has allowed it
to happen. They are also to be blamed. I'm thankful to the voter also is to be blamed. It is not only the politician. The politician has not come there by force. It is the voter who has sent them there. And then, having gone there, they are all responsible for this scenario.
Absolutely. And as far as the voter is concerned, there was a time, Maithri, when if you put up more posters than the other guys, you fool the voters, and they would go and say, "Oh, I know this name. I've seen his face on so many walls," and they would actually vote for that guy without knowing anything about.
Now, Nilesh, now it's becoming a bit tougher, because
the posters are gone.
No, not only the posters are gone. You have to account for your financing.
Yeah,
and there is some scrutiny with regard to monies being spent. So if you spend excessive amounts of money, I mean, people are going to find out, and you have to lodge your election campaign funds and how you got the money, and you have to.
But then even that in the last the two elections last year, we saw that many candidates didn't actually lodge their finances.
Then will be prosecuted.
They are being prosecuted.
So that's a law taking its course.
But again, this comes back to society where candidates are the risk is that they won't be able to run again. They may lose.
No, if you
ability.
enter the fray, you have to abide by the rules, and you have to make those declarations. Now, all of us have done it. So if you make those declarations, no problem. But if you don't, then you're exposing yourself for a prosecution. So then that's the law of the country. That's which Parliament has decided. And if it is not fair, the Parliament must change it. But that's the law of the country. We have to abide by that. You can't now challenge it. Individually, we can't say, no, this is not fair. We are not. You can't do that. Law is the law. It has to apply to everyone. And I must say, the Elections Commission, I mean, they have been very, although it's a very difficult process because there are so many candidates and so many things to be done with maybe a very little staff, they have done a very good job with regard to getting these people to file their returns, and they have been sending letters, because I know, since I have a political party, we have been pressurized to give those, and which we are given on time, and then the matter ends there.
So some things are moving in the right direction.
Some things are moving. No, that all because of now it's a commission there. There are 5 members of the commission, and I mean, I'm not saying they are doing an excellent job, but some of the things are happening. Some of the things are happening.
At least they're trying.
Yeah, they're trying. I mean, it's like this race. It's not as easy as putting a switch on and off to make from a bad system to make it a good system. It's a process. It takes time. So, someone has to come and set the process in motion. So, I think these commissions and people being appointed and more power taken off by the president and it being vested with 4-5 members, these are good things which are happening. But only thing is, the only way we can quicken the process, if we can get independent men to get in there. Because as Dr. Colvinari Silva very correctly said, no laws are going to make a judiciary independent. No laws are going to make a judiciary independent unless you have independent men administering it.
Absolutely. And on that note, I'm afraid we are out of time. My thanks to President's Counsel Maithri Gunaratne.
It was a great opportunity to be with you and to talk on these subjects.
And thank you to you at home for watching. Don't go away because the news is coming up next. Have a great evening.